everyone. I'm Adam Brown, and this is Shell Point Today for Thursday, July 21st. On today's show, Cory of the Legacy Foundation talks more about estate planning with attorney Craig Hersch. And we'll learn more about the new Director of Resident Life, Laura Slack. But first, we want to tell you about a Life Quest discussion group on Saturday. Susan Moore of Lakewood will present Finding Beauty in Our Community. Nearby Lakes Regional Park began as a man-made area where rock was quarried during the 1960s. It was purchased by Lee County in 1978 to be developed for recreational use and opened in 1984. Come learn how far this community park has come in this Life Quest presentation with Susan Moore and gardening expert Wes Higgins at 10 a.m. in the Grand Cypress Room. Also, for those who sign up, this weekend is a time for the Academy class on the history of the Olympic Games. Many will be watching some of the Summer Olympics next month from Rio. And to get into the mood, Professor Adrian Kerr would like to equip you with some historical knowledge of how these events began in ancient Greece. Professor Kerr will present historical and archaeological evidence to create a picture of how these games took place, as well as some of the Olympic champions. The class will be held at 1 p.m. this Saturday in the Grand Cypress Room. Cory of the Legacy Foundation returns this week with attorney Craig Hersch. This time they speak about power of attorney and revocable living trusts. These are important topics as we consider what could happen to our finances should we become incapacitated or unable to handle them ourselves. Here's Jeff and Craig to discuss these important matters to consider.
Hi, I'm Cory from the Legacy Foundation at Shell Point, and we're joined today with Craig Hersch of the Shepherd Law Firm. Craig, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, Jeff, for having me.
We're going to talk today with Craig about powers of attorney and revocable living trusts. So, Craig, a lot of people have a durable power of attorney, someone to help them with their financial matters when the time arises. Can you tell us a little bit about here in Florida, what does a power of attorney do? What is their role? And
that's a good question. You know, if I become incapacitated, I can't write my name, I can't sign my checks, I don't know really how to manage my investments any longer. Maybe I have dementia or, God forbid, Alzheimer's or something like that. Well, now your agent, the person you name under your power of attorney, will act for you and do those things for you.
Now, a lot of times we have residents that say, when does that decision made, or who makes that decision? What if I can't make the decision? How does the power of attorney actually start?
Okay, good question. Most of the powers of attorney are good the minute you put pen to paper. So let's say you signed a power of attorney to Craig Hersch today. Right now, I could go down and use your power of attorney at the bank or the brokerage firm. So you really don't want a springing power of attorney. That's what that's called when you have one that's only good upon your incapacity. And the reason is those don't work real well. You go down to the bank and let's say that I'm going down for my dad, and I say, here's my power of attorney for my father. I need to do his brokerage account. I need to transact some business. And they look at it and they say, well, it's only good if your dad's incapacitated. And I say, well, he is. Well, they say, well, prove it. So it could cause some delays. So powers of attorney are generally good the minute that you put pen to paper.
Now, does the person, in this case you, do you need the original signed power of attorney to transact business?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot of the banks and brokerage firms will ask for the original, but you only have one to give. So what we usually do is we'll record it on the public records and get certified copies.
Okay. Now, sometimes I tell residents if they have a fair amount of money in a certain bank or brokerage firm to also check with that company for their power of attorney forms on that account?
That's a good idea, although it can get voluminous if you have a lot of different accounts, a lot of different bank accounts. If you have a good power of attorney that's drafted in accordance with Florida law, it should work everywhere, but your suggestion's not a bad one.
Okay. Now, the other thing is we have a lot of residents that have revocable living trusts. How does a revocable living trust and trustee work with the power of attorney? Yeah. And sometimes they're not the same person or same company.
That's right. In the best of all worlds, we make our successor trustee, the person who follows us in the event of our disability, the same person as our power of attorney, but that's not always the case. Now remember that the trust only governs the trust assets. And typically, I'm going to put the assets in my trust that would otherwise go to probate.
Right.
So, my bank account, my brokerage account, I might put real estate in my trust. The trustee on my disability deals with all of those things. Now, there might be assets outside my trust. A good example of that would be an IRA account, 401k account, life insurance. All those types of accounts, annuities, Those all might be outside of my trust because they name beneficiaries themselves. So in that case, I need a power of attorney to deal with those assets because my trustee has no power over those assets. Those are not in my trust.
So I assume when someone comes to sit down with you, you go through a list of all their assets and how they're titled and who's the beneficiary, and then you try and figure out how best to manage that process.
Yeah,
that's something you help people with.
Exactly, absolutely. You know, we have a little organizer we ask them to fill out, and sometimes we get resistance on that. I don't need to tell you all this stuff, do I? And you know, the problem is, yeah, you do, because we don't know what you have and how you own it, and that, you know, that speaks to power of attorney, trust, and those sorts of things. When people, you know, and everything's confidential, of course, but when people give me a little bit of pushback on that, I say, you know what that's like? And they'll say, no, I don't know. I say, well, it's kind of like going to the doctor and saying, doctor, it hurts. And the doctor says, where? And you say, guess. Because for a guy like me to help somebody, you gotta
Right.
know about what you have and where you have it.
Yeah. So how often do you suggest people to review their documents, to go see an attorney and make sure everything's in place?
Yeah, typically if you're new to Florida, that now's a good time to go review it, because different state laws have different effects on your legal matters. And then, you know, certainly if a major event happens in your family, a divorce, a remarriage, new children, new grandchildren, and then I'd say every couple years, every 2-3 years, just check in and make sure everything's up to date.
Good. Well, thank you for being with us today, Craig.
Thank you,
And
Jeff.
if you have a question about your estate plan, you're looking for an estate planning attorney, or just have a question regarding where your things are at and how best to handle them, feel free to give us a call in the Legacy Foundation. If you'd like to meet with Mr. Hersch, we'd be happy to pass his information along to you as well. Thanks for joining us today.
ShellPoint recently brought on a new director of resident life. Even if you've seen Laura Slack on the ShellPoint property or talking about the concert series here on TV, you might still be curious to know just a little bit more about her and her role at ShellPoint. Chief Operating Officer Scott Moore recently sat down with Laura to find out more.
Well, hello, I'm Scott Moore. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at ShellPoint, and we thought it'd be kind of interesting to get to know Laura Slack. She's one of the newest directors here at ShellPoint. She's the Director of Resident Life. And so we're just going to take a few minutes and probe into her history and see if we can just find out a little bit about what she's done and what she's doing here for us at ShellPoint. So Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you were born and what just your early years, I guess, on planet Earth.
My early years, well, I was born in Pennsylvania. I was born in Levittown, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia. And I grew up there until I was about 19 years old when I went in the United States Air Force.
Oh, so you were in the Air Force.
I was for 6 years.
What did you do in the Air Force?
Well, for my first 2 years, I did communications. I was stationed at Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii, which was coming from a little town in Pennsylvania. That was pretty cool. And then I decided that I wanted to go airborne because I was talking to the airplanes when I was on the ground. So they sent me to Omaha, Nebraska, punishment for Hawaii. And I flew on Looking Glass, which was a plane that flew 24 hours a day. So there was 3 flights a day. And I flew to have 2,000 hours
Oh my goodness.
in the air. One of the first women to be on the Looking Glass plane.
So were you one of the first women then to go through the airborne training?
I was one of the first women to go through survival school. They sent me to Spokane, Washington, where we spent a week in the woods, and then we had to go to concentration camp, and
Oh my
it
goodness.
was quite an experience.
That sounds like it. And so at some point you'd had enough of that.
At one point, I had enough of that. After 2,000 hours in the air with men, nothing wrong with men, but being the only woman, it was pretty tough. And so they couldn't find combat boots to fit me or a flight suit to fit me. So I went and changed career fields and became EEO, which is I investigated sexual harassment and racial discrimination.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Sent me to Boston, Massachusetts, which was very nice.
Well, we could talk about that probably for an hour, but so I'm imagining at some point along here you met your husband.
Yes, I met my husband in the Air Force. We met in Boston, Massachusetts, and we got married in 1985, the year I got out of the Air Force. And he was from Missouri, and I'm from Pennsylvania, and we didn't want to go to each other's states, so we said, where do we want to go? And we said, Florida.
Okay.
So we moved to Fort Myers Beach in 1985.
Oh, very good. And what brought you into the continuing care retirement community business?
Well, Gulf Coast Village was a retirement community in Cape Coral. It was being built in 1989, and I went and applied for a recreation position.
Okay.
And I got the job and started their recreation department at Gulf Coast Village.
And then I obviously read somewhere that you were with the military's continuing care retirement community. And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my husband got transferred to North Carolina in 2008, so I left Gulf Coast Village after 20 years and didn't like North Carolina too much. So I saw a position in Gulfport, Mississippi for a veterans retirement home called the Armed Forces Retirement Home that had been destroyed in Hurricane Katrina, and they were reopening and needed someone to run their resort services resident life department, and they hired me.
So you took it from, I know Gulfport got hit just about like New Orleans did, and so you took it from, helped get it built back up and then reopened.
They imploded the one that had been there.
Oh, wow.
And took it down to the ground and rebuilt another one. So I was there for the end of it when it opened.
Okay.
And then we moved 500 residents in 1 year.
Oh, that's quite a feat.
It was quite a feat.
That is more than we've done here, and we've moved a lot of residents in each year. So then you decided at some point that you wanted to come back to this area?
My son, my one and only son, decided he was coming back to Florida.
Yeah.
So my husband and I made a decision that family was important and we were going to go where he was, since he's our only. And we wanted to be here when he got married, which he just did a couple weeks ago, and we want to be around when grandchildren come.
Well, congratulations, and I know how special they are.
Thank you.
So tell everybody watching today a little bit about what your responsibilities here, what areas fall under your realm, if you will.
Okay, under resident life falls transportation, which is huge, the thrift store, all the salons, resort services, which is fitness and the inside and outside recreation, set up and tear down. We also have the Academy of Lifelong Learning falls under our department, and Health Connections fall under our department, and LifeQuest.
And so which of those areas does the concert series fall under?
Thank you. I forgot about the concert series, and how could I forget about that? Well, that falls under Resident Life,
Okay.
which is me.
Okay.
And Debbie, my coordinator, helps with that.
Well, we sure enjoyed the 4th of July celebration the other day. That was a real treat. And we're looking forward to all of the programs and everything that Laura's group brings to us. It's that's what I call all the fun here. You know, Shell Point is a lifestyle with life care. And we know that life care is the healthcare entity, and the lifestyle entity is the food and then everything else. And so we're really excited to have Laura here. We're excited to take a few minutes here and get to know her a little better. Thank you very much, Laura.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
Have a great day.
And now it's time to cover all today's happenings, Academy news, menus, and Village Church connections.
Hello and welcome to the Happenings segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Bev Chandley.
And I'm Caitlin Van Scoy.
And we're here to tell you the activities that we have going on here today at Shell Point. We're going to start with an early one. We have a 7:15 Health Connections class, Bend, Breathe, and Balance. That's in the Tarpon Room on the island. And the Men's Golf Association will be at the Shell Point Golf Club at 8 o'clock. Also at 8 o'clock, the pickleball courts behind the Resident Activity Center will have a game going on. Also at 8 o'clock, the round robin tennis will be going on at the Woodlands tennis courts. At 8:30, we have summertime fun at Beach Day. The court pickups begin for Beach Day at 8:30 on the island, 8:40 for the Woodlands, and 8:50 for Eagles Preserve and Estuary. Also at 8:30, we have the Paddlers Club meeting at the Kayak Storage for their weekly outing. And at 9:15, the shuffleboard players will be down at the shuffleboard courts. Current events will be gathering in the game room of the Woodlands at 9:30. And also at 9:30, we have the ladies match play tennis at the Woodlands tennis courts. Now we have introduction to beginning line dancing. That'll be in the Tarpon Room at 9:45. And from 10 to 2 o'clock today, stop by the health club down in the tunnel and see all the changes that have gone on there. Basic line dancing will be in the Tarpon Room at 10:15. And 11 o'clock's the time the Suzy Q is heading to Rum Runners. You do need to sign up. Here's Caitlin. She's going to go over the afternoon lineup for you.
Thank you, Bev. We start at 12:45 with Mahjong in the Library Lounge on the island. And at 1:15, the Butterfly Garden Committee will be having a meeting on the first floor west parlor of King's Crown. Samba the Card Game will be played at 1:15 in the Resident Activity Center. And we move to 1:45 for fun and fitness in the community room of King's Crown. The Stamp Ministry will be meeting in the Stamp Room on the island at 2 o'clock. And 2:30 is the time for the Summertime Assisted Living Tea and Tour. That'll be meeting at the Dining Room of the Springs. Balanced Basics will be held in the Tarpon Room at 2:45. And 4:30 is the time for Alcoholics Anonymous. They'll be meeting at the Sable Room of the Woodlands. Our last Thursday activity is Pinochle at 6:30 at the Library Lounge. Well, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath with your Academy information for Thursday, July 21st. Tomorrow, get your questions ready and bring your device to the Apple walk-in clinic for iPad, iPhone, and Macs. I also want to remind everybody that the Pavilion Auxiliary volunteers 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we do have some openings. So please give me a call if I can tell you about some of the ways you can make a difference in the Pavilion.
Menus for Thursday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is roast pork tenderloin with stewed apples and carrots. The dinner special is the Crystal Carving Board for $15.95. The soup of the day is broccoli cheddar bacon. In the Island Cafe, the sandwich special is a turkey bacon melt with a cup of soup for $7.75. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill are French onion New York strip for $19.95 or mussels for $15.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
I'm Nita from the Village Church Library. We have some great new books for your summer reading. The weather has been extremely hot and the dog days aren't even here yet. What can be better than a new book, your favorite chair, and being surrounded by air conditioning? Fiction, of course, are our most borrowed books. We have several new series. The Aloha Reef series by Colleen Cabell. This 4-book set has mystery and intrigue. Plus, you can't help but learn something fascinating about Hawaiian culture. A little older series I just discovered is Heroes of Quantico by Irene Hannon. This 3-book set will have you glued to the pages as the FBI characters solve their cases. The First Hostage by Joel Rosenberg is guaranteed to make you lose sleep. How does he do that? A new author to me is Chuck Holton. His series is Task Force Valor. Highly recommended by a friend, military suspense, radical Islam, unexpected love, and the grace of God all collide in his first book titled All Is Fire. I can't wait to read this one. And yes, if you aren't into my kind of book, we have many other genres, including romance, historical, and humorous fiction novels as well. Are you into biographies? Many, many bios grace our shelves, from those about missionaries to well-known figures. One of our newest acquisitions is The Greatest Lesson I've Ever Learned, edited by Bill Bright. It details lessons by Billy Graham, James Dobson, C. Everett Koop, and 36 others. We also have many informative books, such as The Day of Islam, The Rise of ISIS, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, and Jews for Jesus. In addition to all the categories I've named, we have a substantial nonfiction collection, including Bible commentaries and standalone books by well-known authors. Some of our newer nonfiction have tantalizing titles. For instance, Thank God for Atheists by Timothy Morgan, The Politically Incorrect Jesus by Joe Battaglia, Hallowed Be Thy Names by David Wilkerson, and The Three Heavens by John Hagee. Don't these sound interesting? Add about 350 DVs, again in fiction, nonfiction, bios, and CDs for easy listening while taking that summer road trip, and an extensive reference collection, and you have our Village Church Library. Certainly we have something that would interest you. And remember, you don't have to belong to the church or even be a Shell Point resident to borrow our books. Our hours are 9 to 11 and 1 to 3, Monday through Saturday, 8:30 to 10:15, and 4 to 6 on Sunday, with an additional time on Wednesdays, 5 to 7. What could be easier? See you this summer.
Thanks for joining us for today's program. Tune in tomorrow when Anna Maria Tesoriero will give us a preview of her library book talk coming next week. And we'll revisit the top stories from this week. Until then, this has been Shell Point Today for Thursday, July 21st. We're glad you joined us today, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.